The day everything changed, it was supposed to be just another morning in Los Angeles, the kind where the sun slips through the curtains like a gentle whisper, and the city hums quietly before the chaos begins. Keanu Reeves sat alone in a quiet corner of his modest home, sipping his coffee slowly. His mornings were always peaceful, quiet, even sacred. But today, something felt off. He didn't know why. He just knew. The phone buzzed on the counter. He glanced at the name. It was his agent. Gary never called this early unless something was wrong. Keanu picked up. Keanu, Gary said, voice clipped and fast. We've got a situation, Keanu. Stood up instinctively, tension settling in his shoulders. What is it? Gary hesitated, then dropped the bomb. It's Anna. Those two words hit Keanu like a punch to the chest. He hadn't heard from Ana de Armas in over 3 months. They'd worked together on a project last year and formed a quiet but powerful bond. Not romantic. Something else. Something deeper. They respected each other, trusted each other. What about her? Keanu asked, voice tightening. She's on the new film with you, the action thriller, Last Exit. Principal photography starts in 2 weeks. I know that, Keanu said, still not understanding the urgency. Gary paused again. She wants out. She's scared. Something's going on, but she's not talking. She's withdrawn. Her team tried to keep it quiet, but the producers are furious. They're threatening to sue her if she walks. Keanu's stomach dropped. Why is she scared? He asked. Gary's voice lowered. We don't know, but someone on set might be involved. The new director, Leon felt. There's rumors, nothing concrete. But Ana's pulled away from everyone since he joined. She specifically asked, For you? Keanu was silent. He remembered how Ana looked on the last day of their previous shoot together. She had hugged him tightly and whispered, Thank you for making me feel safe. And now, Keanu felt something burn. In his chest, not anger, not yet. Something deeper. Responsibility. Duty. I need to see her. Gary didn't argue. Ana de Armas lived on a quiet street in Silver Lake, tucked behind rows of lavender bushes and eucalyptus trees. Her house was small, filled with books, and sunlight and echoes of laughter that hadn't lived there in a while. When Keanu knocked, there was no answer. He waited. Then the door opened a crack. Her face appeared, pale and tired. Keanu. He gave her a small smile. Can I come in? Ana hesitated, then opened the door wider. They sat in her kitchen, drinking tea instead of coffee. The silence between them was heavy but gentle. Finally, he asked, What's going on? Down, fingers tightening around her mug. I don't know how to explain it, she whispered. It's not one thing. It's 1,000 tiny things. Stares, comments, a feeling I can't shake. Like something is watching me all the time. If I say the wrong word, something bad will happen. Keanu leaned forward. Has anyone hurt you? She shook her head quickly. No, not directly, but Leon. He's different behind closed doors. He plays mind games. He makes you doubt yourself. He told me. If I quit, I'd never work in this town again, and I believe him. Keanu's jaw tightened. And you think no one will help you? Ana's eyes filled with tears. Who would believe me? I'm not a star, not like you. I'm just ... me. Keanu looked at her for a long moment. Then he said softly, You're not alone. Keanu left her house with his mind racing. He didn't. No, Leon felt well, but something in his gut told him this wasn't just a misunderstanding or a clash of personalities. This was something darker. He called Gary. Pull me out of the film. Gary exploded. What? Keanu, are you out of your mind? This is a guaranteed blockbuster. $50 million budget, European release. It's the role of a lifetime. I don't care, Keanu said calmly. I won't work with someone who makes people feel unsafe. Pull me out. Gary was silent. This is going to make headlines, he said finally. People will ask why. You want me to lie? Keanu closed his eyes. No, tell the truth. Tell them I stand with Ana. And he hung up. The fallout was immediate. Within hours, Entertainment news sites were flooded with headlines. Keanu Reeves walks off set 2 weeks before production. Keanu backs out of major role. Amid rumors of on-set conflict, Ana de Armas reportedly in distress. Keanu Reeves' steps in the world didn't know the full story yet, but they knew enough. The internet exploded. Fans called Keanu a hero. Some said he was overreacting. Others said he was just protecting a friend. But Keanu didn't care. He wasn't doing this for the headlines. He was doing this for her. Anna called him that night. She was crying. "You didn't have to do that," she said through tears. "You gave up everything." Keanu sat alone in his dark living room, phone pressed to his ear. "No," he said quietly. "I gave up nothing. You're just roles. You're a person, a good one. And you deserve to feel safe." Her voice broke. "No one's ever stood up for me like that before." He smiled sadly. "Maybe they should start." But the story wasn't over, because Leon Felt wasn't just a director. He had powerful friends, people who didn't like being challenged. Within a week, the whispers started rumors about Keanu stories. It's twisted and planted in the press. Keanu Reeves, difficult on set. Keanu's reputation at risk after walkout producers distanced themselves. Meetings were canceled. He didn't say anything publicly, but privately the walls were closing in, and the man behind it all. Leon Felt, the same man who once told Anna, "You're lucky to even be here." But Keanu, he wasn't afraid because he knew the truth always finds a way, and he had no idea that the real twist, the one no one saw coming, was only just beginning. The silence before the stormed days that followed were quiet, too quiet. Keanu Reeves was no stranger to media storms. He had seen his name in the headlines more times than he could count. But this was different. The silence wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence that comes before something breaks. His phone barely rang. Emails stopped. A few texts from old friends, supportive ones, but nothing from studios, nothing from directors, nothing from the people who used to chase him down. For meetings, Anna sent a message every day. Sometimes just a quote, sometimes just a heart emoji, sometimes nothing but his name. It helped more than she knew. He didn't want her to feel guilty. He didn't regret his choice, but still could feel that he was being quietly erased. Not publicly, not loud, just faded. Meanwhile, Anna was fighting a different kind of battle every day. Someone from the production sent her messages, legal threats, emotional manipulation, veiled warnings. One producer called her and said, "We had high hopes for you. Guess you're not ready for the big leagues." She hung up before she cried. Another text simply read, "You should have stayed quiet." The words echoed in her head. She couldn't sleep. She jumped at every sound. Her small house began to feel like a cage. But one night, she did something different. She went to the window and looked up at the stars. Then she grabbed her phone and dialed Keanu. "I can't stay quiet anymore," she said. He didn't ask what she meant. He just said then, "Don't." Anna posted a video the next morning. It was shaky, raw, no makeup, no lighting, just her, sitting in her kitchen, her voice trembling. "I didn't want to do this," she began. "I didn't want to make this public, but silence is too heavy now." She talked about the fear, the pressure, the quiet way people in power can make you feel like you're invisible. "I was scared," she said. "But someone reminded me that fear is not weakness. Fear is just a signal, and we choose what it means." Then she paused, eyes shining. "Thank you, Keanu," she said, "for seeing me when others didn't." The video went viral within hours, not because of fame, not because of drama, but because it was real and real things. They travel far. Keanu watched the video alone. His hands were shaking, not from nerves, from something deeper, from that ache you feel when someone finds their voice and uses it even when their knees are trembling. He whispered one word under his breath, "Brave." And then he turned off his phone. He knew what would come next. The machine would turn, the media would spin, but this time, truth had a head start. It didn't take long. The next day, another actress posted her own video. She had worked with Leon Felt 2 years ago, her story was almost the same, then another, and another, one by one. The stories poured in, different women, different sets, same patterns, the same name, Leon. By the end of the week, a major entertainment journalist published a full expose interviews, documents, testimonies. It painted a clear picture of a man who had used fear as his weapon. A man protected by silence, until silence broke. Leon was dropped from the film. The studio issued a statement. They called it deeply troubling and under investigation. But Keanu didn't care about their words. He cared about what came next. Still, even as truth started to rise, Keanu's own career was in limbo. He had turned down not just a movie, but an entire machine. A machine that didn't like being told. No, but something unexpected happened. An old friend called Sandra Bullock. "I saw everything," she said. "I'm proud of you." They talked for almost an hour, not about movies, about life, about how Hollywood needed to change. Then she said, something that stayed with him. "Maybe you didn't walk away from a role, Keanu. Maybe you walked into the one you were always meant to play." He didn't know what to say, so he just smiled and thanked her. Anna, on the other hand, was getting offers, but not from the usual places. Independent directors, foreign filmmakers, young storytellers who saw her video and said, "We believe you. We need you." She was still scared. But the fear had changed. It had become fuel. And she started to believe that maybe this was the beginning of something, not the end. Keanu met her again 2 weeks later at a small cafe near Griffith Park. She looked different, still tired. Yes, but there was something in her eyes now. A quiet fire. "I want to make a film," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "A film?" "Not just any film," she said. "A story that matters, about truth, about courage, about people who don't have power, finding it anyway." Keanu nodded slowly. "Do you want help?" She smiled. "I want you to be in it." Keanu laughed softly. "I thought you were done acting with people who walk off sets." Anna looked at him seriously. "You didn't walk off. You walked toward me. And I'll never forget that." For the first time in weeks, Keanu felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. But the road ahead wasn't easy. The media tried to twist their story. Some called it a publicity stunt. Some said Keanu was doing it for attention. Some said Anna was exaggerating, but none of it mattered anymore, because they had something more. It's powerful than headlines. They had each other, and they had a story. One they would tell together. One that would shake the very foundation of the system. But first, they had to find someone willing to take a risk, to finance the film, to believe in the message. And that would require more than courage. It would require sacrifice. And Keanu, he was ready. He had already given up one role, but he was about to give up even more. And this time, the cost would be much higher. The deal they couldn't refuse. Rain came softly that morning, unusual for Los Angeles, but somehow it felt right. Keanu Reeves stood by the window of his small writing studio, staring at the clouds. He didn't know why, but he had always found comfort in gray skies. Maybe because they reminded him that even the sun had to rest sometimes. On the table behind him lay a printed script. Anna's script. It was raw, unfinished, messy in places. But it had heart. Real heart. Keanu had read it twice. Already, once as an actor, once as a friend. Both times. He cried, not because it was perfect, because it was honest. He picked up his phone and texted her just one word. Yes. Ana de Armas was already in motion. The moment Keanu agreed to join her project, everything changed, not magically, not overnight, but something inside her clicked, a kind of bravery she didn't know she had. She began reaching out to small studios, indie producers. Film festivals that supported first-time directors. Most said no. Some didn't respond at all. But one tiny production house in Brooklyn, called Lantern Films, replied with a question. Is the story true? Anna answered with a short message, every word. They flew her out the next week. Lantern Films was run by a husband and wife duo, Jamal and Claire. They had once worked for big studios, but 10 years ago, they walked away, burned out by the system. Tired of selling lies now, they only made films. That meant something. They read Anna's script in silence. Side by side, by the time they were done, Claire had tears in her eyes. Jamal leaned back, took a long breath, and asked Anna one question. "Are you ready for the fight?" Anna didn't blink. "I've already started it," Jamal smiled. "Then let's make a movie." Within 3 weeks, pre-production began. It wasn't glamorous. They didn't have trailers or big budgets or catering trucks. They had coffee, folding chairs, used equipment, and passion. Keanu flew out to Brooklyn quietly. No press, no noise, just him. A backpack and a script full of underlined scenes. On the first day of rehearsal, Anna walked into the room and froze. Keanu was already there, setting up chairs for the crew. She laughed. "You know you're Keanu Reeves, right?" He looked up, shrugged, and said, "Chairs don't care." Just like that. Everything felt possible. But trouble wasn't far behind. On day 3 of shooting, a man in a black SUV parked across the street. He didn't get out, just sat there watching crew. Members started whispering. Someone said they saw a camera. Anna tried to ignore it. But by the 4th day, the same SUV followed her home. She called Keanu. "I don't want to be paranoid." She said, "You're not," he replied then, without asking. Came over and spent the night on her couch. Nothing happened, but the presence of someone who believed her. That was everything. A week later, Jamal got a call. It was from a big studio, one that had passed on the script before now. Suddenly they were interested. But with conditions. "We love the story," they said. "But we think it would be better with a few changes." Jamal asked, "Like what?" They said less focus on the abuse. More romance. Maybe make the antagonist less obvious. Tone it down. Jamal laughed. "So, make it safer." The exec on the line said, "Make it sell." Jamal hung up. He told Anna and Keanu that night. Keanu didn't even flinch. "They want to erase the reason we're doing this." Anna nodded. Double quotes. "Then we don't let them," Claire added quietly. "We don't need their money if we have our message." But they did need something. They needed time, and money was running out fast. The next day, Keanu did something no one expected. He sold his motorcycle, not just any bike. His favorite one, the one he rode on his first big shoot, it had been with him. For over a decade, he didn't tell Anna. He didn't tell anyone. He just handed the cash to Jamal and said, "Keep the cameras rolling." Jamal didn't ask questions. He just took the money, swallowed the lump in his throat, got back to work. Anna found out 2 days later when a fan posted a blurry photo online. Keanu Reeves just sold his bike outside a pawn shop. She confronted him. "Why didn't you tell me?" He looked at her, calm. "Because you would have said no." She blinked back tears. "It meant something to you." "So does this film," he said. And that was the end of that. Filming wrapped 3 weeks later. The final scene was shot on a rainy rooftop in Brooklyn. Anna's character stood facing the city. Wind in her hair, tears on her face, whispering the final line, "I am not small anymore." When the director yelled, "Cut," the entire crew burst into applause. Not because it was perfect, because it was true. They knew it. They felt it. They had created something. Something brave. Something that could not be ignored. But they were about to learn that truth doesn't guarantee safety. Because before the film could even be edited, word got out. A blog leaked photos. Then a tabloid ran a headline. Keanu and Anna's secret project. Film or career suicide. Calls came in again. But this time, they were threats. Not subtle. Not quiet. One voice message said, "You're making enemies, Mr. Reeves. Walk away before it gets worse." Keanu played it for Anna. She didn't flinch. "I'm not walking away." Smiled. "Me neither." They submitted the film to Sundance, just days before the deadline. No press, no connections, just hope. Quiet kind of hope, the kind you carry in your pocket when you have nothing else left. Then they waited. Weeks passed, and just when they started to lose hope, an email came, subject line, "Official selection Sundance 2026." Anna screamed. Keanu just sat down and closed his eyes, not from shock, from relief they had made it. But the biggest stage of their lives, this was still ahead, and the people who tried to bury them, they were coming back, this time with everything they had. Louder than silence out there in Park City, Utah, was sharp and cold. The snow crunched beneath boots. Sundance had always been a place for dreamers, but this year it felt different. Ana de Armas stood near the theater entrance, wrapped in a plain black coat, her breath fogging in the air. No designer dress, no red carpet smiles. She wasn't here to be seen. She was here to be heard. Keanu arrived just minutes before the premiere. He wore a simple jacket, worn jeans, and a quiet expression. They hugged without saying anything, because some moments don't need words, they just need presence. The theater filled slowly, not fans, not with NFL answers, but with filmmakers, survivors. Some had heard rumors, others had followed the whispers online, but most of them, they came because someone told them, "You need to see this." The lights dimmed and the film began. It opened in silence. Just Anna, sitting in a room, eyes wide with fear. For the next 92 minutes, no one moved. No popcorn, no phones, no whispering. Just stillness, the kind of stillness that only comes when a story cuts deep, when truth becomes more than words on a screen, when it becomes its breath and heart and pain and healing. The final scene played. Anna's whisper echoed again. "I am not small." Anymore? The screen faded to black. For a full 10 seconds, there was silence. Then someone stood and clapped. Then another and another, until the entire theater was on its feet. The applause didn't stop. It grew louder and louder, until Anna covered her face and wept. Not because she was sad, because for the first time in a long time, she felt safe. The reviews exploded that night. Haunting and powerful. Ana de Armas delivers a career-defining performance. Keanu Reeves in his most grounded, human role yet, but the praise wasn't what mattered most. What mattered was what happened next. One article read, "The film industry has a reckoning coming." And people took notice. Not everyone liked it. Some still called it a stunt. Some said it was too much. But most felt something stir inside them. Something that couldn't be put back to sleep. A week after Sundance, Yana got a call. It was from a young actress, barely 20-1. She said, "I watched your film. Almost quit acting last year, but now I think I'll stay." Anna cried again. Not from sadness, from knowing she had passed the light forward. Meanwhile, Keanu sat quietly in his home, watching the internet, interviews, clips, chaff stash. People were calling him a protector, a quiet warrior, but he didn't want attention. He didn't need awards. He just needed the truth to win. But something still bothered him. Leon felt the man behind the fear. He had disappeared after being dropped from the film. Months ago, no charges, no apology, just vanished. But Keanu knew the system. Didn't forget people like Leon. They hid them, protected them, and sometimes, quietly, gave them another chance. He couldn't let that happen. Anna agreed. They didn't want revenge. They wanted accountability. So, they teamed up with a journalist. Her name was Emily Chang, a woman who had spent her career exposing hidden power together. They shared everything. Emails, messages, testimonies. From other women, Emily worked day and night, fact-checking, verifying, interviewing. People who had once been too afraid to speak. And finally, the article dropped, a 10,000-word feature. It didn't just reveal Leon's behavior. It revealed how the system had protected him. Names, dates, legal, loopholes, everything. It was undeniable, and it hit like lightning. The fallout was immediate. A class action lawsuit was filed within 48 hours. Studios launched internal investigations. Several executives quietly resigned, and finally, after months of silence, Leon Felt was arrested. Not just for misconduct, but for blackmail, coercion, obstruction of justice. Anna stared at the news screen for a long time, then turned it off. Keanu was sitting across from her. He didn't smile. He just said, "It's not justice yet, but it's a start." Anna nodded. "It's enough. For now." And then something unexpected happened. The Academy called. They wanted to screen the film for awards consideration. Anna almost said no, but Keanu gently placed a hand on her arm. "Let them see it," he said. "Let them feel what you felt." And so they did. In a private screening room, filled with people in suits and ties. They showed a film made on secondhand equipment and homemade courage, and when it ended, there were no dry eyes. One judge said, "Softly, this changes things." When the nominations were announced 2 weeks later, no one expected what came next. Best Original Screenplay? Ana de Armas Best Actor? Keanu Reeves is Best Picture? I Am Not Small Anymore Best Director? Ana de Armas. Internet went wild. Not because of celebrity gossip, not because of fashion, because a film made out of fear and truth had reached the world's biggest stage. But with the spotlight came danger. Again, old enemies resurfaced. Online trolls, fake stories, even threats. Anna's publicist begged her to cancel her upcoming press appearance, but she said no. This time, she would not hide. She stood on that stage, looked straight into the camera, and said, "This isn't about awards. This is about the women who don't have cameras. It's the ones who don't have Keanu Reeves in their corner. The ones who cry alone. It's for them." And just like that, silence broke again. Keanu watched her from the wings, his eyes filled with pride, not for himself, for her. He remembered when she sat in a kitchen, afraid to speak, and now here she was, teaching the world how to listen. He didn't say anything when she stepped off the stage. He just hugged her, tight, and whispered, "You're not small anymore." But as they celebrated quietly together, a knock came at the door. A lawyer stood there, and his hand was a lawsuit. Not against Leon, not against the studio, against them. Someone filed a defamation case. Someone powerful, someone angry. They had won hearts. But now they'd have to fight again, this time in court. And if they lost, everything could be taken away. The film, the awards, their careers, their voice. Anna looked at Keanu. "What if we lose?" He held her gaze. "Then we lose standing up." The courtroom and the Cost Courthouse didn't feel like a place of justice. It felt cold, tired, like it had seen too many people crushed by systems meant to protect them. Ana de Armas sat beside Keanu Reeves at the defense table. Neither of them wore designer suits. They didn't come to perform. They came to defend the truth. The lawsuit was filed by a producer tied to the studio behind Last Exit, the film they had both walked away from. He claimed the movie, I Am Not Small Anymore, was defamatory. He claimed it ruined his name. He claimed it was all fiction. But most of all, he claimed that Keanu and Anna had done it for tension, fame, revenge. Anna single quotes, his hands trembled as the trial began. But Keanu just looked at her and whispered, "Breathe." So she did. The prosecution was ruthless. They painted Keanu as a fading star. Trying to stay relevant, they called Anna manipulative and calculated. They used smiling photos, out-of-context texts, and even old interviews against them. At one point, the opposing lawyer said, "You walked off a film, Mr. Reeves, and now you expect the world to believe you're the hero." Keanu didn't flinch. He just replied softly, "I didn't walk off. I walked toward someone who needed help." The courtroom went silent, and Stern on the stand came 2 days. Later, she was nervous. Her voice cracked, but she didn't hide. She told the truth. Not just about Leon Felt, but about all the moments that came after, the threats, the fear, the guilt, and the choice to stand anyway. "This isn't just about me," she said. This is about every person who was told to stay quiet because telling the truth might cost them everything. The judge watched her closely. So did the jury. And for the first time, Yana felt like maybe, just maybe, they were being heard outside the courthouse. The media circus grew. Fans held signs. Some said, "We believe Yana." Others said, "Thank you, Keanu." But not all signs were kind. Some called them liars. Some said they were destroying careers. It hurt, but Anna kept walking every day because she knew the truth. It didn't walk easy paths. It walked through fire. One morning, a surprise witness was called. No one expected her. Not even Keanu. It was an actress who had once worked with Leon, someone high profile. Someone who had stayed silent for years, until now. She took the stand and told her story. How Leon cornered her during a shoot in Europe, how no one believed her, how the studio buried it. But when she saw Anna's film, she decided to speak. "They didn't ruin my life," she said, pointing at Keanu and Anna. "They helped me find it again." The courtroom shifted. For the first time in days, the tide began to turn. The trial dragged on for weeks. Every day was a battle, but Keanu never left Anna's side. They rode to court together, ate quietly in corners together, walked through crowds together. One night, after a brutal cross-examination, Anna broke down in the hallway. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. Keanu didn't speak. He just sat down beside her, slowly pulled out his phone, and showed her a photo. It was of a letter. Mailed to his home, a young girl had written, 10 years old. She had watched the movie with her mother, and the letter said, "Thank you for helping girls like me not feel scared anymore." Anna wiped her eyes. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll keep going." Then came the closing arguments. The prosecution accused them of arrogance, of recklessness, they said. "This isn't justice. This is a show." Then their lawyer stood Jamal, not loud, not dramatic, just steady. He looked at the jury. "They didn't do this for fame," he said. "They did this because they knew what would happen if they stayed quiet. And you know it too." He pointed at Keanu. He gave up the biggest role of his career. Then at Anna, she risked everything, her safety, her name, her future to speak. Then at the jury again, and now. You have to decide if truth is still worth defending. The room fell into silence, and then the judge gave the instructions. Jury would decide by the end of the week. The wait was the hardest. Part Anna couldn't sleep. Keanu barely ate. They sat in a little rented cabin outside town, watching snowfall, waiting for the phone to ring. On the fourth day, it was Claire. Her voice shook. "You need to come to the courthouse." Anna's heart dropped. "What is it?" Claire paused. "The verdict is in." The courtroom was packed. Cameras outside, tears inside. Anna held Keanu's hand under the table. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Then the foreman of the jury was asked to read the verdict. He cleared his throat. "In the matter of defamation, we find in favor of the defendants, Keanu Reeves and Ana de Armas." Gasps filled the room. Anna blinked, then looked at Keanu. He smiled, soft, gentle, proud. They had one, afterward. Outside the courthouse, a reporter shouted, "Anna, what do you want to say to your fans?" She stepped forward, looked into the camera, and said, "Don't stay quiet, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." Keanu didn't speak. He didn't need to. He had said everything already, with his actions, with his sacrifice, with his silence. But even in victory, something changed. Keanu received no new roles for months. Doors that once opened easily now stayed shut. He didn't complain. He never said a word. But Anna noticed one night. While walking through a quiet bookstore, she turned to him and said, "You're losing everything because of me." He shook his head. "I'm finding everything because of you." Then he pulled a book from the shelf, handed it to her. It was a blank journal. He had written one sentence on the first page. "What story will we tell next?" And that was the moment Anna knew. This wasn't the end of their journey. This was just the next beginning. Because while the world watched them as actors, it becomes something else entirely. Storytellers, truth-tellers, fire-starters, and their next story. It wouldn't just change minds, it would change everything. The story that lit a fire started with a phone call. A young woman from a small town in Illinois. Her voice was soft, nervous. "I saw your movie," she told Anna. "I showed it to my class. We talked about power, about fear, about kindness." Sat still, her hand over her mouth. "I'm a teacher," the woman said, "and for the first time, my students." They listened. After the call ended, Anna turned to Keanu. "Do you hear that?" She whispered. He smiled. "Yeah, that's the sound of change." Months passed, the storm settled, the headlines quieted, but the ripples didn't stop. I Am Not Small Anymore was nominated for 5 Academy Awards. It won 2. Best Original Screenplay and Best Actress. Anna stood on the Oscar stage, trembling as the golden statue sat in her hand. The crowd applauded, but the only person she saw was Keanu. He stood in the front row, his eyes shining with quiet pride. Anna cleared her throat. "This isn't just for me," she said into the mic. "This is for the person who told me I was worth protecting, gave up his spotlight so I could find mine." She didn't say his name. She didn't need to. The whole world already knew. After the awards, offers started coming in again, not just for Keanu and Anna, but for people like them. Actors who had been told they were too emotional, too outspoken. Two honest writers who had been rejected for telling stories that made people uncomfortable. A new kind of Hollywood was rising, quiet at first, but steady and real. Anna and Keanu were invited to film festivals. They were asked to speak at universities. They were even asked to sit down with Congress to discuss safety reforms in the entertainment industry. And slowly, the old doors began to open again. But this time, it's on different terms. On their terms. Keanu started teaching not in film schools but in community centers. He taught young actors how to stay grounded, how to say no, how to know their worth. One day, a girl asked him, "What's the most powerful thing you've ever done on screen?" Keanu thought for a long time, then said, "It wasn't on screen." He looked out the window. It was choosing to walk away. Anna began mentoring women in the industry. She hosted writing workshops for first-time female directors. She created a fund for independent films that told difficult truths. She kept the journal Keanu gave her every few weeks. She'd write a sentence in it, never more. Just one sentence at a time, and slowly. The next story began to take shape. A year later, they announced a new film, a quiet drama about a woman who builds a shelter for survivors of trauma. It wasn't flashy, no car chases, no red carpets, just truth, raw and beautiful. And this time, Anna directed it, Keanu produced it. They didn't chase studios, studios chased them. But even in all the buzz, they stayed grounded. Keanu still took the subway. Anna still made tea at home before writing. They never forgot the cost of their story. And they never stopped telling it. One evening, they sat on a rooftop in New York, watching the city lights flicker like stars. Anna looked at him. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked. "The old way?" Keanu leaned back in his chair. "Sometimes," he said honestly. "The speed, the noise, the way everyone said yes." He paused. "But this feels more real." Anna nodded. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out the journal. She opened to the last page, handed it to him. He read her newest line. "Truth doesn't need a spotlight. Shines anyway." He smiled. "That's your best one yet." Anna laughed softly. "It's yours too." They never called themselves heroes. They never needed to, because their story did what stories are supposed to do. It made people feel, it made people think, and more importantly, it made people speak. Truth spread, kindness echoed, respect returned, and in a world so loud with noise, two people had created something quiet and powerful and unforgettable. Not with power, not with anger, but with courage, humility, resilience, and dearmed. Love not the romantic kind, but the kind that holds your hand when you're afraid and says, "I see you." the kind that protects, the kind that lifts, the kind that lasts. And in the end, that was the story they told. A story that changed not just the industry, but lives, one truth at a time.